Perhaps people are often discontented. Just like me, I have a stable marriage. Yet I remain unsatisfied and always long for my husband to offer me the romance and care we had before marriage. I was disappointed when he failed to do so, and this disappointment gradually turned into despair. Precisely at this juncture, a man emerged who could provide what I desired. Without hesitation, I got entangled in this virtual relationship and eventually did something that betrayed my husband. But now, I truly regret it and am filled with guilt. I wish none of this had ever happened and only blame myself for getting involved in the first place. Can anyone tell me how I can alleviate the guilt in my heart? My husband is 8 years older than me, and we've been married for 3 years. He's in business and mostly in other provinces, so he's rarely at home. He only returns 2 or 3 times a month. In the beginning, I wasn't accustomed to being at home without him and would call him several times a day, expressing my longing for him and urging him to come back quickly. At that time, my husband was very patient and would comfort me, calling me sweet, but as time passed, he grew impatient when answering my calls and would sometimes hang up without a word, always claiming that old married couples didn't need to be so clingy and that there was no need for the romance we had before marriage. I'm a woman who sees RAV's novelty. However, my husband didn't understand my mind, and I felt let down. Then I met him. His care and love for me gave me a different and warm feeling compared to my husband. Maybe everyone's heart has an unruly self that eventually breaks out when the right opportunity arises. He was 32 years old, 6 years older than me. We met while playing online games. At that time, my husband happened to be taking on a project in another province and wouldn't be back for 2 months. So when I was bored, I relied on the internet to kill time. He purchased something on it, and after a luxurious hand-holding scene, the system recommended our pairing. That's when he sent me a request to hold hands. Initially, I just wanted to have some fun and didn't take it seriously. We flirted and bantered all day long on the internet. He had a great sense of humor, but I didn't have any special intentions at the time. I just thought it wasn't bad to have someone to talk to. But people are strange creatures. After a long period of ambiguity on the internet, there would always be some other feelings. Slowly, my heart began to be dissatisfied. I communicated with him on the internet and had an urge to see him. He also mentioned several times that he wanted to see me. Later, we met, but nothing happened the first time. It was only after repeated contacts that I began to feel attached to him. It wasn't until we had a relationship later that I suddenly discovered that he was such a greedy person. He not only wanted to maintain his marriage but also desired the passion and excitement he lacked in it. The first time we made an appointment at A. When I saw him, he was more charismatic than I imagined, very mature and composed, with black-framed glasses. He looked very elegant. The first meeting was a bit nerve-wracking, but the process was still wonderful. I had a good impression of him, and I knew he felt the same about me. Slowly, we transformed the ambiguity from the internet into reality and met frequently. The moment he said he liked me, I could clearly feel my heart pounding faster, experiencing an indescribable sweetness. At that time, I was also greedy. reason told me to stay away from the ambiguity, but my emotions acquiesced to his pursuit. Later, he often sent ambiguous text messages and would call to say he missed me and tell me to go to bed early and say goodnight. My husband was busy with work at that time and rarely called to care about me. His attentive actions made me gradually fall into his tenderness. At the time, I knew it was dangerous but couldn't resist and couldn't refuse him. Truly, I yearned for that tenderness. Until that day when we had a relationship, we went to the bar together that day. I remember when we were inside the bar, he intentionally or unintentionally touched me with his body, especially when he picked up the cup I had drunk. His ambiguous look while drinking gave me an inexplicable commotion. We drank a lot of wine that day. We were just dizzy, not drunk. When we came out, he suddenly put his arms around me. I was surprised at the time but didn't reject him. I can't describe the feeling. Probably, I really liked him. Later, we walked along the road for a while. He leaned close to me and whispered, "Baby, don't go back tonight." I didn't explicitly refuse or agree. I was extremely conflicted in my heart, feeling that I shouldn't do this, but while struggling, I followed him in the direction of the hotel. I know I'm sorry for my husband, but at a certain moment, a person's consciousness is always deceived by desire. Later, when we entered the room, as soon as we did, he pushed me against the wall and began to kiss me passionately. Then he picked me up and placed me on the bed, unbuttoning my clothes one by one and stroking and kissing me. I hadn't had sex in a long time. His actions made my desire explode at that moment. In those short 10 minutes, I threw everything aside and my body cooperated with his movements, unable to extricate myself, but after the passion, I regretted it in my heart. Really, some might call me insincere, but I truly do regret it. I always feel sorry for my husband. I'm a bad woman. Later, when he called, I didn't dare to answer. I was very conflicted. I don't want to make mistakes anymore, but sometimes I still want to see him. I was truly miserable. I know this is wrong. I don't want to be obsessed with it anymore, but whenever I'm lonely, I can't help but think of him. My mind can't be controlled. What should I do? Is it exactly because of him or because of loneliness?